Hey there, pilgrims. Welcome back to another dose of Venture Pill. Here's what to expect from this week's dose.
First up, you'll hear about Fizz, a startup that is helping young adults boost their financial literacy and build credit through their reward earning debit card, hot off a $14.4 million seed round led by Kleiner Perkins.
Next, we'll talk about Tender, a startup that's revolutionizing the plant-based meat industry with their innovative fiber spinning technology, fresh off an $11 million Series A led by Rhapsody Venture Partners. And lastly, we'll close out this week's dose with a breakdown on GPTZero, the leading platform for AI-generated content detection and responsible AI adoption, and their $10 million Series A.
Debit cards, plant based meat, and AI detection. Another diverse spread of startups for this week's dose. So let's get into it.
You see here, kid, you gotta just go for it. Don't think about what comes after or what came before. You just gotta bend your knees, take a deep breath, and jump.
This is Venture Pill, your weekly dose of startups and venture capital. We break down recent startups in the news and interview founders and investors to help you stay informed in the evolving world of venture.
All right, first up on this week's dose, we've got Fizz, which just announced a $14.4 million seed round led by Kleiner Perkins. The round also included participation from SV Angel, Y Combinator, New Era Ventures, as well as founders and early employees at companies like Handshake and Postmates. So they started Fizz, or what they kind of named financial independence for Gen Z, with a little extra Z for a little extra pizzazz. And they started with the valiant goal of helping young adults build credit, but maybe more importantly, to become financially literate. So what do they offer? Basically, first and foremost, it's a debit card that allows college students to earn rewards and build credit at the same time. So how does that work? Well, a student can link their existing bank account. They then get a credit limit and a daily available to spend recommendation where they can then spend, earn rewards, and pay back with daily auto pay.
Right, and on top of that, they also offer gamified financial literacy education through their app or on their website on common topics like why is my credit score so low or how does Fizz help me build credit? It also has a part about student loans and how those can help build credit as well. So pretty comprehensive, and I'm sure they'll continue to build it out, library of financial literacy education on their platform. And on top of all of that, they also offer budgeting tools and saving tips, as well as financial coaching with one-to-one financial advisors, all right in the app.
Yeah, that's a lot of resources there to kind of encourage these students to stick around in their ecosystem, which I think is really smart. And their mission is true and at the forefront. So it's not just a tactic. So they've had a good amount of traction over the last year, partnered with over 300 college campuses. They claim tens of thousands of students are using the platform today. And we did want to mention a little bit of the competitive landscape. While Fizz's offering is truly unique, as detailed by Kleiner Perkins partner Ilya Fushman in the article we have linked, there are many players in the industry, including the obvious banking giants.
Right, and goes without saying, say it with me, Sam, down with
big banks.
And we also just wanted to highlight here kind of similar startup we've had the chance to actually talk to in the past when we interviewed Eve Halimi, the founder of Alinea Invest, about a year ago at this point, which is crazy. And they raised a $3.4 million seed round to help Gen Z women with their AI wealth management platform. And that's just, one of the several other student-focused financial companies out there like Copper and Current. I mean, there are tons of students, and financial literacy, we've discussed this in the past, but financial literacy is not something that you necessarily learn in your typical school day. So all of these new platforms that are going out of their way to reach out to Gen Z and college students and just make sure that they're aware of their finances as they start to accrue finances and join the workforce. It's a noble mission, and we love highlighting companies like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And overall, this funding from the round will be used to continue the development of their in-house developed technology, which they take a lot of pride in and believe is a competitive advantage. They're going to continue to strengthen existing bank partnerships, which they've also cited as a competitive advantage and a differentiator. And they're going to grow their 11-person team. Got a lot of decorated engineers today, but can grow that more with this round of funding. And their goal is to get this product onto as many campuses as they can and grow their already impressive 9-figure payment volume. So lots to be proud of so far for Fizz. And, this is really just the early innings for them and in their mission to provide financial education and an opportunity for students to build credit. It's awesome.
Yeah, agreed. And it's a great name. I think it'll resonate with some college students. And I wonder if they'll take a similar approach. I know Alinea has had a lot of success recently, and a big part of that has been really taking social media by storm, going viral on TikTok and all these other platforms that happen to be where a lot of Gen Z and college students' eyeballs go. And that has helped them grow. So I imagine that those plans are already in the works for Fizz. All right, for our next company on this week's dose, we have Tender, a plant-based meat startup, meat in quotes, that just secured an $11 million Series A, led by Rhapsody Venture Partners, joined by Lower Carbon Capital, Safar Partners, Claridge Partners, and Nor'easter Ventures. The 4-year-old company, which was formerly known as Boston Meats, is revolutionizing the plant-based meat industry with its innovative fiber spinning technology.
I have to say, I love the former name too, Boston Meats, but Tender's pretty good.
I can imagine that pissed a lot of carnivore Bostonians off, so maybe they chose to change it from there.
True. Yeah, so a little bit more on the product from Tender. They specialize in developing structured plant-based meat alternatives like beef short rib, pulled pork, chicken breast, and crab. So a wide variety there, and got me salivating already.
A little surf and turf.
A little surf and turf action. Who knew?
Love that.
Yeah, their patented technology spins plant protein fibers, including soy proteins, similar to cotton candy production, to create whole meat-like cuts with realistic textures. The result? Hyper-realistic, nutritious, affordable products with simple ingredients.
Yeah, and this approach aims to differentiate and surpass from the traditional plant-based offerings from big incumbents like Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat in taste, texture, nutrition, and cost effectiveness. And we've mentioned this in the past, but while the big ones like Impossible Food and Beyond Meat are meat alternatives, feels like they've been facing some recent scrutiny as people realize that what's under the hood may be equally bad for you or maybe even worse than eating meat, right? Some chemicals, some unsavory ingredients, to put it politely. And so all 4 of those, again, taste, texture, nutrition, and cost effectiveness, have been barriers to mainstream adoption within the food tech industry. And that's exactly the 4 barriers that Tender is trying to break down here.
A little bit more on the adoption so far. Tender's products have hit restaurants and universities in the Boston area, and a new partnership has Tender products now in more than a dozen Clover Food Lab locations in the area. The company also continues to trial its products in the market, including with food service companies and large corporations that manufacture food.
Yeah, and I got to say, it's worth shouting out that Tender had a great website, and similar to some other companies we've seen that are, putting a new spin on an old industry, had tons of different recipes, tons of different ways for you to interact and learn more about the product. And they made their product look incredible, obviously, but definitely would love to get my hands on some Tender alternative meat options. And so with that said, I'm going to touch on their plans with this new capital. So they plan to utilize it to scale up capacity they have a new facility up to millions of pounds, as well as commercialize their first products while further lowering production costs. So again, making it more affordable, more accessible to everybody. In the long term, Tender hopes to become a technology enabler. So, on top of the alternative meat products we've been talking about, it's also kind of a technology play here, as they hope to enable the entire food tech industry, work with a whole host of different players across the value chain, and even perhaps license their technology there. I love the cotton candy analogy. I think that's an easy visual for anyone that's been at a carnival or a fair to try to comprehend some of the way more complex protein spinning they've got going on behind the scenes. But yeah, I think they plan, it's kind of a two-pronged approach where they've already got their alternative meat products that are for sale and you can buy them at a couple locations in the New England area, but also really leaning into this differentiated technology approach that they've come across.
Yeah, they should license it to Big Cotton Candy and get some protein cotton candy at the fairs.
True.
I would love that. I'd eat that all day. Yeah, it's a cool technology here. I wonder how it was developed and how it stands up to the other methods and sort of the moat there. But for now, it seems they've really developed something that is differentiated and should be interesting to see what kind of adoption they can get at some bigger food chains or grocery stores and things like that. So lots of room to grow here for Tender. We'll be excited to taste it and keep tabs.
Yeah. And without further ado, let's get into our last company for this week's dose, which is GPTZero. So not ChatGPT, which you've heard 100,000 times from us on this podcast, but GPTZero, which is the leading platform for AI-generated content detection and responsible AI adoption that just announced a $10 million Series A, led by Footwork co-founder Nikhil Basu Trivedi, joined by Reach Capital, Alt Capital, Uncork, Neo, and some angel investors, a whole slew of angel investors. And so setting the scene here a little bit, GPTZero was founded in 2022 by Edward Tian and Alex Kui, while both of them were still students, and they're both 24 and 26 respectively now. So some young, super impressive entrepreneurs that we get to spotlight to close out this week's dose. But essentially, GPTZero is a detection tool that helps identify whether a piece of content was AI generated or not.
Yeah. So the startup has been highly sought after since its launch back in December of 2022. When they launched as a web app in December 2022, 30,000 people instantly swarmed it and caused the website to crash, which is wild to think about. And since then, they've seen a lot of growth. Namely, in the last 6 months, GPTZero has grown 500% in annual recurring revenue, or ARR, which is super impressive.
Yeah, that's incredible momentum, and we're going to keep building it here with a couple more stats. So over the past 12 months, their user base has grown from 1 million users to over 4 million. Incredible 4x growth there. Additionally, the company has been profitable for the last several months, even noting that they have more money in the bank than the $13 million they've raised in the past 2-ish years. And that was via this $10 million Series A, as well as a $3.5 million seed round back when they were kicking off in 2022, 2023. Additionally, in terms of more recent traction, users and revenue have more than doubled since January. So just a bunch of parlaying statistics and early traction that really highlights the crazy market demand and influx of interest that GPTZero is attracting.
Yeah. So a little more on how they actually developed this. Tian developed GPTZero while he was studying computer science and natural language processing and journalism at Princeton. So
Wow.
an easy triple major, or I don't know if it's triple major, but impressive nonetheless. During internships for BBC and later the New York Times, he wrote code that actually helped journalists identify AI-generated content. So after the wild response his initial web app got, Tien reached out to his buddy Alex for help.
Right, and to complement Tien's impressive educational resume, let's give Kui his fair share, namely that he has a master's degree in machine learning from the University of Toronto and was in a doctorate program, but promptly dropped out of that program to become Ethan's co-founder after getting that call, which I imagine, especially in light of their recent traction, he is not too upset about. And so once the two joined forces, they rewrote the app into its current standalone platform, so not a web app platform, and raised a $3.5 million seed round after reaching about 1.5 million users in their first 5 months, which is crazy. Every number we've read about this startup so far has just been attention-grabbing, eyebrow-raising, eye-popping. They're really doing a good job of getting a lot of users and revenue going for such a young company.
Yeah, but they're not the only one working to identify AI-generated content. We should mention notable competitors, including AI Writing Check, Originality.ai, Catch GPT. I almost want to say Chat GPT. I wonder if they have a lot of probably mix-ups with that one, and more. But just to name a few, many in the AI detection industry, though, have abysmal accuracy. OpenAI was pressured by AI industry paranoia into launching its own AI detector at the start of last year, then promptly shut down the tool only 7 months later after it was widely criticized for how poorly it worked. So, very hard to execute at a high level of accuracy.
Right. And to underscore everything here, obviously, in today's age of AI and how ubiquitous it is everywhere, like being able to detect when something is AI generated versus when it's not, especially if, it has to do with writing, or if you're a student, submitting an essay or a job application, something like that, being able to detect is becoming increasingly important. But also, as you just mentioned, it's pretty difficult to have significant accuracy while doing so as these models continue to get more complex. And so GPT-Zero's big differentiator from all the competition is that it's the most accurate option in the space. And that's really just because it has access to more data and has built its own LLM models using the most advanced open source tools, which is part of their secret sauce. Was a dead end trying to dig any further into finding what tools they specifically were using. But that makes sense. That's what's helped them establish a moat here. And so a quick quote from Alex Quee, the co-founder: "We have a big data advantage. We have millions of examples of text that is human versus AI. We've also combined this with some of the best-in-class models and deep learning. And we're actually using language models to detect language models." So a little bit of a language modelception there, as you said while we were going through it. But interesting way of, iron sharpens iron is another good expression they say here. So an interesting way of really building out their big data advantage. And that makes sense when you think about all the data that goes into all of these different AI startups. And so now just to talk about the expanding customer base for GPT-Zero. So back in October, the startup landed an agreement with the American Federation of Teachers. So essentially best known for helping teachers detect AI-generated student work. But that said, they are looking to continue expanding that customer base and already have had some success in doing so.
Yeah, so they now include government procurement agencies, grant writing organizations, hiring managers, and especially interesting, AI training data labelers. Moving forward, the young founders have a bigger long-term vision. They want to create a new independent layer of the internet that performs accountability, ensuring that human and AI content is properly attributed. That's a big goal. To that end, the team is currently working on AI hallucination detection with the objective of safeguarding the authenticity of original internet content.
Yeah, and just to dig a little deeper there, hallucinations, which is when AI presents AI generated fiction as if it were fact, is probably the number one bane of generative AI's existence. That's definitely what a lot of critics tend to cite that as an issue it has with, and the ramifications it could have as it continues to strengthen its foothold on society. And so the company's first step towards addressing this is a newly available free AI text copyright check for LLM training data sets. And this will help them generate the training data for broader hallucination detection. Again, all in the hopes of maintaining and bolstering AI integrity and just making sure that if you are going to use and rely on AI, you're not taking its fiction for fact.
Yeah, and that gets out of hand really quickly. So a big mission, like I said earlier, here for this team, but they've got an early lead with all the data they have, as you mentioned earlier, and as they continue to build this, I just can't get over that. A new layer of the internet. That's awesome. So it's these big goals and innovative companies that we love covering, and these guys are no different.
Yeah. Again, love a pair of young, ambitious founders, 24 and 26. That's awesome. Raising millions of dollars, generating millions of dollars in revenue. That is an example of, our bright youth shaping the future of our country. No pressure, guys. But but no, it's just awesome that they're working on it. None of this would have even been thought about before AI became a thing about 2 or 3 years ago, or a widespread thing about 2 or 3 years ago. But that's the nature of venture capital, right? Just things are always changing, and whoever can adapt with the times the quickest tends to have success. So tip of the cap to everyone out at GPTZero, that lean team working on it. But yeah, partner, I think that just about wraps up this week's dose. As always, thank you to our listeners for tuning in, and you know exactly where to find us next week.
We'll catch y'all next time. Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another dose of startups and venture capital. And as always, we appreciate our pilgrims spreading the word about the show. Share with your friends and help someone else make the pilgrimage. See you next time.
She told me that she only bumps my music when she's lonely. Thinks my vibe's a little low-key, okie dokie, that's alright, but wait, I don't know how to do